Let's take a quick tour through appearances on right-wing media and by Republican politicians over the last 24 hours or so. The big news, of course, we covered it at the top of the show, that with absolutely zero Republican support in the Senate, Democrats passed a $1.9 trillion stimulus bill, which, while not as big as we want, not as soon as we wanted, doesn't include the minimum wage. It will put thousands of dollars in the pockets of families with children. It will provide a ton of money to accelerate vaccination. And it was all done without a single Republican supporting it. A great question for these Republican elected officials would be, a lot of your constituents want this bill, and yet you voted against it. That was not the story on right-wing media for the last 24 hours. What has the right been up to over this period of time? Let's take a look. First example, here is Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves, who recently canceled all COVID guidelines, wide open state, no more masking, nothing. Tate Reeves went on CNN and still, in nearly the middle of March, would not acknowledge that Joe Biden simply won the election. Take a look at this.
Do you accept that Joe Biden is the legitimate, lawfully elected president of the United States?
President Biden is the president of the United States.
But was he legitimately
in our state,
and
we don't
lawfully
allow
elected?
mail-in voting. In our state, we do not allow mail-in voting, and the reason we don't allow mail-in voting is because we don't think we think that it allows for lots of opportunities for fraud and other things. And I don't think mail-in voting should be allowed in other states around the nation. But President Biden is the duly elected president, and we're going to do everything we can to work with him to help the citizens of Mississippi.
There are lots of states that Trump won where there's mail-in voting, including Florida, including Ohio, including Utah. I hear you saying Joe Biden is the president. I do not hear you saying he was legitimately elected. FBI Director Chris Wray, former Attorney General Bill Barr have both stated there was no widespread voter fraud, none that could have affected the outcome of the November election. Republican after Republican, Ducey in Arizona, Kemp in Georgia, your colleagues, judge after judge have rejected this argument. This is a dangerous conspiracy theory that tens of millions of people believe. It inspired a domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. Yes or no, do you accept that the 2020 presidential election was free and fair? Obviously, every election has some questions, but I'm talking about free and fair, legitimately elected Joe Biden, yes or no?
As you said, Jake, every election has some questions, and this one was no different. President Biden is the duly elected president of the United States. That he was certified by all 50 states, either having won or lost. He lost my state by 20 points, but he was certified in each of the individual states. He was certified by the U.S. Congress, and he's the duly elected president.
All right.
But that doesn't mean that we don't have bad laws in the books in other states. It's just a fact.
This is their new refrain. When asked, they say, Joe Biden is the president. That is very different than Joe Biden actually won. They are still going with this. They can't simply say, despite always having some anecdotal individual allegations of irregularities in every election, the number of alleged irregularities wouldn't come anywhere close, even if they were all proven to be true, to affecting who won. And yes, of course, Joe Biden won. He says that, listen, Joe Biden is president, but there were irregularities and blah, 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 blah. It's 4 months, guys. It's 4 months. And if they're still saying it now, they aren't going to stop anytime soon. I expect them to continue with this all the way through to the 2024 presidential election. And in fact, they'll use it to try to justify continuing to suppress the vote, as we already see them doing more than 250 Republican bills in more than 40 states, making it harder to vote. So let's continue our tour of what has been happening with Republicans and right-wing media over the last day or two while Democrats were passing COVID relief. Over on Maria Bartiromo's Fox News show, she invited on Senator Lindsey Graham to talk about, of course, trans women in sports. Hey, listen, at least it's not Dr. Seuss. Here's Lindsey Graham.
Way with a distinction between being a man and woman in the law. Biological boys are going to start playing in girls' sports. And if you're a religious organization out there and your faith dictates that certain things happen, this bill takes that ability.
Now, I've talked about how trans women in sports is a calculated, fabricated issue that does exist, but affects Almost no one statistically, but also this idea from Lindsay about the laws are going to make our religious beliefs irrelevant. They are the opposite of our religious beliefs. Who cares? That's America. We have separation of church and state. You can privately believe whatever you want, but you don't get to point to your holy book and say, this belief of mine from my chosen religion dictates what the law should be. If you believe in Zeus, if you're a Hellenist and you showed up and you said, we must be allowed to do animal sacrifices, that's in our beliefs. If you don't allow that, you're limiting our ability to practice religion. Civil law and government don't have to allow that. Sorry, guys, you might believe that, but we have secular government. No can do. Secular government shouldn't care what your supposed holy book says. Then one more from Maria Bartiromo. She casually mentions that we know COVID came from a Chinese lab. And of course, we don't know that. Take a listen.
I haven't also heard President Biden say anything about where the coronavirus originated. We know it originated in a Wuhan lab.
Imagine that. She's criticizing Biden for not having said where the virus came from. First, why does Biden have to weigh in on that? He's the president. He's not a scientist. The virus has been around now since, November, December of 2019 in some way, shape, or form. Why does Joe Biden need to weigh in on that? And secondly, of course, we don't know that it originated in a Chinese lab. That's Maria repeating it as fact when it is not fact. And then lastly, again, as Democrats were passing COVID relief, here is radical Republican Trumpian Congresswoman Lauren Boebert on Fox News trying to make the case that I guess what she's saying is that undocumented immigrants are drunk driving and then not being punished or something like that.
Schools. They want to jail you for not wearing a mask, but want to keep illegal aliens who are, drunk driving here in our country.
Lauren Boebert, who we'll talk about more in a moment, clearly not understanding how immigration law works in many states and jurisdictions. If you are drunk driving and you are arrested, local police don't conduct immigration investigations. Local police, if you're drunk driving, deal with the drunk driving, whether you are here illegally or not. They don't involve themselves in that. The idea of they want to keep them in the country couldn't be more deceptive and dishonest. So that's right-wing media during the weekend, a weekend in which we scaled up vaccination and did nearly 8 million doses in 3 days, passed 1.9 trillion in COVID stimulus in the Senate, which now goes back to the House. This is what they focused on. What value do they provide? What are they bringing to the table? It seems as though it's nothing, but it's actually something very important. They are providing a parallel agenda setting that is useful to those who want to continue living in this alternate reality. And they, Biden, most popular initial approval of any president in 30 years. People want COVID relief and it passed. People increasingly want the vaccines and they're scaling them up. You need a parallel story to tell. And increasingly, it's a story about trans women in sports, cancel culture, and undocumented immigrants. That's the story they've done. And now let's talk a little bit more about Lauren Boebert.